just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I.
Well, no sense worrying about it now.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
Yeah. Now let's get ready. Switch me on. I don't think you're crazy.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
What is going on, Ghostheads? I am super excited to be here. Obviously, I'm a lot bigger. Do you know what that means? My partner in crime, Ted Steady, is not here with me tonight. So we're a bit of a ship without a captain, but that's okay because I'm a pirate and we have something incredible lined up for you today. But I do have to bring on somebody else from our Countdown City Geekcast team. He's a new member, but he is an expert in comic books, which is going to help us today, and that is Retro Ray. So welcome, Retro Ray. How you feeling today?
Pretty good, sir. Really looking forward to doing the Ghostheads.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about who we have on today.
Actually, we have
They
Charles,
should be excited, right? Why should the audience be excited?
because we got Charles. Well, he's got a little long name, so let's go with Charles, to introduce him, or CP. He has worked on the TMNT Ghostbuster crossover. He has also worked on did awesome covers for like Marvel, for IDW. He's actually even done a couple of Kiss covers as well. I mean, his artwork is awesome. He has also got some independent stuff he's done as well. But overall, like the Ghostbuster TMNT is the main reason we want to talk to him today. And of course, you can see I'm rocking my TMNT.
That's awesome. I like that shirt too. Retro Ray is low key the swaggiest. He's got the most drip of anybody on the Countdown City Geekcast team. Retro Ray has some exclusive T-shirts. Every time he's on, I'm like, where'd you get that? And we got some folks in the chat here. Before we bring on our guests, we got Terry Widener. Hello from South Dakota. And then we got Paxton Christie coming in. Team Terry. Hashtag Team Terry. We're keeping that up until the end of time. And then Paxton, again, South Dakota Ghostbusters representing. If you're in the chat, if you like comic books, if you like Ghostbusters, if you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you like Marvel, if you like Star Wars, if you like comic books, this is fun. So let's go on and bring on our guest, Charles Paul Wilson III.
Hi, I'm Charles.
That's awesome, Charles. Thank you so much for being here today. I know we've set you up quite a bit on some of the things that you've done here. And I guess maybe just to sort of introduce you to the crowd and the ghost heads out there. How'd you get started doing this?
How did I get started drawing comics or drawing?
Yeah, well, so a lot of people draw comics. So what was your first big break? Like, what was that first comic that kind of put you on the scene?
Well, I draw a book called The Stuff of Legend, and it's put out through Third World Studios. And that book put me on the radar for work-wise, a lot of different publishers. And so mostly a couple editors over at IDW, and they had the Turtles and Ghostbusters licenses around the time that I started drawing for them. And I started, my first project with them was a Splinter Micro, a Ninja Turtle comic. And every now and then after that, they would bring me in to draw a flashback sequence if it took place in feudal Japan, because the Splinter Micro comic took place in feudal Japan. It was mostly a flashback book. And so the Ghostbusters and the Ninja Turtles comic has some flashback things that happen in it. And so the editor Bobby, he would he would just contact me every now and then and say, hey, we have a batch of pages from like Ninja Turtle stuff, and asked me if I'd be interested in drawing it. And so and it's just spotty throughout the ongoing series, and the when they got to the or periodically or sporadically, I don't know, whatever the best word for that is. Um, when they got to Ghostbusters 2, um, or Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters 2, that one was a lot of different artists that were drawing, because the Ninja Turtles and the Ghostbusters were traveling through, I think, time. Um, and they got to a point where um, there was someone they had to meet in the past for the Ninja Turtles. And I was drawing feudal Japan scenes. So they brought me in for, it's near the end of the second volume too. So I drew the very first group of pages for the first volume, and then I drew stuff in the last two issues also. But anyway, yeah, I grew up with Ninja Turtles. Ray and I were talking a little bit earlier about 80s stuff. And so, yeah, the Ghostbusters and the Ninja Turtles, I never would have thought in a million years of a story of those two coming together. It's pretty neat, but a lot of neat things were happening over at IDW for
Yeah.
crossover stuff.
Which is interesting because I can see from an artist's perspective how you never would have thought of combining those two franchises. But as an avid Ghost head and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, um, I don't know if there's any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans who aren't Ghostbusters fans, and I don't know if there's any Ghostbusters fans who aren't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fans. It's such a fun collaboration between those. And so you were talking about feudal Japan. So I just had a question as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan. So of all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, is 3 your favorite?
No, that might be too young for even me when it was out. I remember being excited for it to come out, but um, no, it was. I think the second one was okay fun, but not as good an experience as the first. And then the third one came along, and I think that one spoke primarily to kids, and I just wasn't that kind of a kid any longer. I still wanted all the stuff, but you know. But no, I mean that came up a lot. I was drawing Ninja Turtles wearing um, a lot of samurai armor in the book, and so there was a lot of reference. But I think what I wound up doing was I tried to. David Peterson had drawn some covers before I had been given anything for the book, and so I tried to match his stuff instead of, and it makes me wonder though if I would have tried to have gone for something from the movie reference wise, but I wound up matching what he had drawn on his cover to a degree. I wound up shorthanding a lot of stuff for time's sake because he was very detail oriented, and I am also very detail oriented, but I do have to make abridgments here and there when it comes to what timeliness. So, um, but yeah, I see someone in the comment section mentioned they like the third movie, so that's cool. Yeah, I've probably seen that one the least of the three, if I'm honest. So I have no idea what that would look like today, but I have seen the other two recently, so they still hold up pretty well. And the Vanilla Ice scene in the second is still pretty awesome.
Yeah, Secrets of the Ooze is definitely a cult classic. It was culturally and time wise like very appropriate for the year that it came out, and they nailed it on a lot of those things for sure. I'm a fan of all of them. I like 1 through 3. I was born in 1990, so they hit me in a very perfect spot. So those 3 movies I certainly enjoy. And then so when you were talking about feudal Japan too, though, so had you been interested in animes? I couldn't go through your full catalog of everything that you've done, but were you looking to get into anime, or is that something that you work in currently?
Um, n- no, I guess you could say there was a small period in the '90s when let's see, we had Video Update. We had Blockbuster, but we also had Video Update. That was the closest video rental place, and they had just put up an anime section in. It was just a very small uh, area where they just had a lot of popular movies. Although like at the time, I wouldn't have known it. Ghost in the Shell. I think I wound up with Ninja Scroll. That one wound up being something. I think I wound up just purchasing that and not renting it because someone at the store was just like, "Oh my gosh, you have to see this," and I was just like, "Well, okay," and I really liked it. And then I wound up getting into Dragon Ball Z because of the tapes that they had there. They just had all of them up to a certain point, and then I had to catch the rest on Saturday morning, which was pretty tough because you'd have to wait, and then you got all the way to a point where there's one character who's supposed to transform, and they talk about him transforming for the longest time, and you're like, oh man, that's going to be next episode for sure. And
Well,
then
yeah.
finally they play the very last episode that they're going to have on TV for a very long time, and he still didn't transform, and you had to wait. But Japan, I think, had it for they had all that stuff out for the longest time already.
Yeah,
So
and so,
I
and
think we
you're
were just
talking
waiting for
about
the dub.
the first time Goku went Super Saiyan. I think
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it was like 4 episodes, and it was a lot of him just like Goku just sort of standing there like and it's like, well, why aren't these guys fighting? But there is something about the way that artwork. I mean, because Dragon Ball Z to me is definitely top tier anime, but and that may be like a generic take, but I love it. Did you ever get into Yu Yu Hakusho? Did you ever see that show?
I didn't. No, no. I think you could probably count Escaflowne, um, Tenchi Muyo, maybe Slayers, and I don't know. Maybe there were like 3 or 4 others now that I think about it, but I can't recall the name. But um, I wound up getting my hands on those, and at the time, there was no streaming or anything, and there wasn't
Yeah.
anything to rent, so you just had to purchase certain things, and it would get kind of expensive. So you had to really pick something and stick with it if you liked it. Um, and I tried Ranma One Half a bunch. I think I wound up
Yeah.
getting some bootleg tapes from a comic book store near me, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty neat. But I remember that one the least though.
Cool.
But
Well,
it seemed like it was the most popular.
I'm going to send you my login for Crunchyroll, and as an artist, just watch a Yu Yu Hakusho. It's one of the most beautiful animes ever. Ray,
Okay.
you're the comic book guy here. What do you got for our guy Charles?
So Charles, I'm pretty sure when you went to school for art, was it you went to school for art to draw comics, or were you just going because you like to draw art, and it just gradually moved into the comic book world as well, or what got you to that point to like want to go to school for art?
Um, well, let's see. The school that I went to, they were geared primarily towards teaching you how to work professionally in comics,
Oh, nice.
and other fields too, but primarily comics. It was the Joe Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Art, which is now, I think it's just the Kubert School. Um, and yeah, that was, I packed everything up and I moved to New Jersey, and I met a lot of really cool people who were trying to do the same thing. It was a lot of fun. Um, One of the first things I did when I got there was I tried to ink somebody else's Ninja Turtle drawing. And and that was kind of fun. That was my first exposure to trying somebody else's work, which later on we would be really working towards, like being able to work with other people. Um, let's see. Someone has a question. Would the Turtles and Ghostbusters have the upgrade proton packs like the? Oh well, that would probably be more of a question for you. I know what a proton pack is, but I
Yeah. Well, Kevin's a longtime follower. Kevin, these comics are out right now. So if you want the answer to that question, then you need to get the IDW series of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters 2, and all of your questions will be answered in there. I promise you, Kevin.
yeah. There's Dan Skoning. I think that's how you say his name. He draws the Ghostbusters. I tried to kind of match what he did with the proton packs. And while I was doing that, I was also looking at photos from I think the original movie, but I might have been looking at toys and other things too. Um, but yeah, now that it's behind me a bit. I can't really remember what the big decision on that was, and there was no real. No one said they're using a specific proton pack, so I don't know if you guys are familiar with Star Wars and Darth Vader's armor, but he has a different kit setup between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, and I didn't even notice that while I was working. I was drawing Darth Vader stuff. So yeah, that's a detail. Those are details that I should be paying attention to, but I didn't know to.
Yeah, and there is significant changes in that suit, and so it could save you from wasting a lot of time. And that was actually kind of one of my questions, especially with something as detailed as like a Ghostbuster setup. It's a very detailed thing. Even the proton pack alone, I would assume, like all the technology is a little bit difficult to draw. They came to you because they liked your style, I assume. So they had trust in you enough to say, "Hey, we want to kind of see what your vision is here." How many times did it take for you to send them something before they said, "Yeah, this is it," or were they just like, "Boom, we love it, let's go with it"?
Well, I might have. Let's see. I as far as timeliness goes, they might not have had time to run certain things in for approval, or they did, and then they said, "Okay, now just go ahead and do it," and then we'll handle it, like when the notes come back, we'll take care of that. So, but yeah, whenever I started working on something for him, I didn't want to be, but I was probably one of the more difficult artists for them to work with. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just assuming. Um, but like I would get stuff in on time, but only just, like if it's due on the 15th, I would have it in at 11:59 on the 14th. Um, not like not all at once. Hopefully, I don't know if I did that or not, but like as it would go along, because there would be people working on stuff behind me. I know that for the Ghostbusters and the Turtles comics, the second one, that one was colored by Luis Antonio Delgado, and he was really quick. I remember while I was working on it, I color my own stuff a lot. I'm not very quick, but I've got a lot of my own shortcuts, and they are probably nowhere near where professional colorists, like they have their stuff together, and he got everything done like right away, like I mean like really right away. I don't know how he's so fast, but fast and really good. And then yeah, so for here, what we have here, this is my cover for it. I did the colors on this, and what I really one of the things that I had to learn to be careful about was I knew what I was going to do with the red circle with the crossbar through it, and it was not part of the line work. But it's been pretty difficult for me to communicate stuff like that to other people. So for things like this, like I love doing it myself. But
Nice.
yeah, thanks. But yeah, this was also probably one of I think this is my favorite thing that I've done for them. I'm glad you picked this to show off. You know, like a lot of times, some people will they'll say, "Oh, hey, you know, like you can." I don't know, like we're going to feature something of yours here or something like that. And then they will pick probably the worst and the oldest commission that I did when I was sick or something. I don't know, just like it's just the thing that I would not want anyone seeing ever. And then they would pick that to showcase.
Well, it's
But this one is neat. I love this one.
this one's my favorite one too, and that's the reason why I brought it up. So I'm glad we obviously have the same taste. I'm nowhere near as talented as you, but tastefully to me as a comic book, this one exudes the chaos that would happen if these two teams ever got together. It exudes the humor that would happen if these two teams ever got together. You could see like Donatello's. He's kind of blinding Ray here. Raphael's, thing is kind of stuck in the in the wand there. Slimer kind of coming through. It exudes the chaos and humor that would happen if these two teams got together, packaged up very, very nicely. If I knew a tattoo artist that was good enough, I would actually get this piece tattooed, to be honest with you. And then I was because you were talking about coloring. So that's when, as an artist, as a pencil artist, so you have to really trust the person who does the color. Like you obviously knew when you drew this, that Slimer was green and that Leo was green. So you have to like trust your colorist to be able to differentiate those, right? And like make it stand out and sort of look different. How often, like when you get a coloring back, do you have to go back to them and be like, no, this isn't good? Or do you just kind of let it go and say it's their interpretation?
Um, normally I wouldn't have to say anything. I mean, I don't even know, like how appropriate it is unless I think it's appropriate if you have a note, if it is veered towards a detail of I remember there was a novel. I worked on a book called Wraith, and I remember that the colorist wouldn't know it, but the candles on a big tree in the middle of this amusement park, the candles were blue in the novel Nosferatu, written by Joe Hill. And on that, and that was a detail that I came across a lot. And so the colorist, I think when we first got it back, the candles had orange flames, so something like that I think would merit, like, oh, you want to bring a note to that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I think for other things, I don't know how pragmatic they are when it comes to their approach, or if they are considering, all right, like I'm thinking of something Sean Murphy said a while back about how he steps back in quality a little bit so he could turn things in on time, and I'm wondering if it's the case for colorists too. Like like in the background, I like to have, if I draw a bookshelf, I like the books to be different colors. Um, but a lot of times you'll look, and that row of books, they will all be one singular color,
Mhm.
like all in. And I think that has a lot more to do with time, like they need to get it done, but the color they pick is important. It has to look good, and that's where their color theory comes in. So and a lot of times, like theirs will be stronger than mine. I do not have a lot of the same schooling or influence that a lot of the colorists out there have. Um, but it is a great big wide world of colorists, because you see all kinds, and you could see the ones that are way ahead, and that's what you want to reach for. And then you see the ones who are still behind, but they're really working towards it. So you see good ideas that need more practice, or um, just they need to pull off that happy accident that leads them towards that stylistic or aesthetic or whatever it is, that color choice that that's going to well, anyway, so a lot of stuff that I'm like, if you look at this, you can see like a red sky, I think, a lot of
Hmm.
reds and purples, and it works well with the orange, and I'm just talking about background choice here. And it looks really good, like that's not something on day one. When you start off with colors, you think, well, skies are blue, so you would go the blue sky, and buildings are gray, and then you have a very kind of a boring, I think, or ordinary looking image. But this one sets like a lot of mood and tone. I don't remember who the artist this is. It Adam Gorham? I don't know who this one is, but the colors are really nice on it. I like it a lot.
It helps to accentuate the motion of the picture. Like obviously, this picture you're depicting motion, right? This car is moving through these
Oh yeah,
streets, and so some of the gradients that they and like the change in the colors and kind of the tone. I think it adds to that looking like that it's moving.
yeah, I
Um,
think so too.
so yeah, and I just wonder like how much because like I'm like so much of a perfectionist sometimes, and I like if I'm creating something like it's mine, like building and penciling something and then sending it off to someone for color, like you're depending on them to make your art look good, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it needs color, and so you're sending off the thing. So you're saying it's kind of more like you frame the house, but they bring in another contractor for the paint, and then once you frame it, it's just kind of you know it is what it is after that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that before I went away to art school, I do remember how I looked at a lot of artwork, and what if it was a penciler, I would think that that is the most important thing, and he should be the boss of everyone, um, like Jim Lee, for example, or someone. But as it turns out, like everyone has to bring a little bit of themselves and put themselves into it. And The colorists, sometimes I see colorists have a bit of an issue with getting notes from the penciler when it's more of a creative thing, because you could tell that colorists have, like when I see a lot of colorists comment online, they have a lot of their own thoughts and opinions on their work. It's not just work for hire, especially in comics. So they have a lot of um, and a lot of them from like I am constantly surprised by this, but I shouldn't be. But a lot of them draw also. They didn't sit down and just start coloring other people's work or anything. They sat down and they started to draw, and that helped them a whole bunch. When it comes to doing whatever aspect they can do. Like another artist I know named Nelson Daniel. He colors Zach Howard's work, probably the best that Zach's, so far as I know, can be colored. But Nelson is really amazing at drawing on like in his own. So and he seems really quick, so he can draw and color his stuff, and he can color someone else's stuff. Um, and because I see his stuff, um, the value in his um, choices when he's coloring something, I would not want someone else to come along and just change it. I mean, I guess maybe there would be something better. I don't know, but I do know that you wouldn't. There is so much of an artist there in just the color, and like it doesn't seem like something that's assigned, I guess. I don't know how far off the rails I'm going with this question, but um, it's but like the image you have on here now, this was, I don't know if it was colored by Corey Smith. I can't see the signature too well, but I know it was drawn by him, and he was a year ahead of me at the Kubert School. So I always love seeing other alumni in this, especially ones that I know. And yeah, he's always been really, really good. Another one from the Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters crossover was from the school was Tad Galusha, and he I can't remember the name of his book, but he draws dinosaurs really well. They just really cool dinosaur drawings. Um, but yeah, I remember I met him once. He was really nice. And
Which of these on here are some of the ones that you've done?
oh well, as far as the turtles ones go, I can't remember if I don't know if I did one for the first volume. Um, I
You
did
were
the
in
very first 5 pages. Now, see that Kevin Eastman one right there towards the middle. It's next to the grayscale one. Yeah, to that's the one right there. Once I saw that, and that was on a book that I had drawings in, then I probably just forgot about everything else. I might have done a super amazing cover for as far as I know. I don't remember, but I saw that and I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. You know, it
Yeah,
was neat.
it's interesting that a lot of the IDW Ghostbusters TMNT stuff, a lot of it kind of looks similar, but there is specific differences. This is one of those that definitely looks different than your style, but it's like in the same style, if that makes sense.
Oh
It's
yeah, yeah. And if you look at the Ghostbusters themselves, they are drawn a bit differently. However somebody draws it, like if you look at Egon's hair there, you've got three very distinctive, like triangles coming out of there. And I had been working off of one, and I think that one was just made up by Dan Sconing, maybe. And and then I was, what else? Oh, and Pete. Um, he when I drew him, I know that Pablo Tunica drew a really good likeness of him. But when it came to drawing these guys, I asked the editor, I was like, how close can we get with the likenesses? Because I seem to be really bad at it. And like before I started on it, I thought, oh, I'm gonna kill it. It's gonna be really great. And then I sat down to draw it, and I was like, oh, their faces are tougher to, like at least interpret a certain way. I'm not trying to draw like their face exactly, but I'm trying to take their face and put it into a style over here. And I wasn't sure how close they wanted me to get with it. And he said, oh, well, you know what? I don't think I I don't actually, now I
I
can't
think
even
I think you
paraphrase
did
that.
good here. So on this one here, I mean that definitely has Bill Murray vibes up there. That definitely has Harold Ramis vibes there. Obviously we didn't get too much of Ray in this one, but I mean it has Winston vibes. I think this one of most of them actually kind of captures them, pretty well.
Yeah, the Spengler, it looks like a combination between the movie and the real Ghostbusters cartoon series.
Yeah, that was I'm sure a lot of the listeners are people who have been reading the comics. When they brought in the real Ghostbusters to the comic series, that was a treat to see Dan draw those. Those were really neat.
So the question I have for you, so as you, like you said, you went to school for it and you were drawing something else at the time, and what drew IDW's attention was what you were working on. So when you got that call to work on the first Turtles comic, because you have a Splinter cover that you did that to me was awesome. I love the cover that you did, where it's Splinter on the cover. Um, what was your thoughts like as a kid? I want to say like a kid, but you're an adult. What was your reaction when they reached out to you and say, "Hey, would you be interested in drawing, Splinter and the Turtles?" Like, how did you take it?
Well, it was really exciting. In fact, a lot of the emails that I got were really exciting. But yeah, for the Ninja Turtles, that was really cool. I think I sat down with that right away. You mentioned the cover. I tried to do a partial present day in color, and then past in a grainy sort of old samurai movie style. I'm blanking. Kurosawa is who I'm thinking of. One of his films, and um, let's see. And there was only one I had seen up to that point. But anyway, I was trying to marry those two things together on that particular cover. But there was another idea that we were going to go with, and I thought would be really cool, is it is a shot of a building. The top half of the cover it's there's a lot of detail, all the bricks, everything, and you have a whole bunch of foot ninjas fighting, like flying in and kicking, like in Splinters up there, and he's fighting them all off and everything. But if you turn it around, the fight keeps going, and you see um, his past tense self, because he is reincarnated from a character in the past, fighting past, like uh, the bad guys from back in the day,
Yeah.
in the feudal era. And so anyway, and then if you turned it around again, it would just work. It just looked really cool. It was a cool idea, but everything was also really tiny. And so very time consuming, and I had a lot of work to do. So I think in the end, even though that was probably my preference to do that, I wound up doing the cover that was half old black and white movie, half Splinter fighting Foot Clan. And then but yeah, that was a lot of fun. Just as fun getting an email with Turtles and Ghostbusters in the subject heading. Yeah, like every single time, even like X-Files. You and I talked about that a little bit ago.
Oh yeah.
Getting that in the email, like these were all things that I watched repeatedly. So yeah, it was great.
So question. So projects that you would want to work on, projects, that of course Kevin Smith now is doing his comics as well, like Clerks series that he's doing. How would you feel if they would reach out to you to draw for that?
Um, well, nowadays I would think it would make me a little sad, because I have so much to do first before I can get to any more work outside of it. And so but that would be one of those. I would definitely be thinking about it, like, all night. So, and it's fun to think about getting invited to do those things. It's really cool.
Yeah, because I like the cover. I mean, like I said, I'm a big into art. Like a lot of people who don't know about comics, I mean, it's transitioned from back in the day to now. From original artists would do an 11x17, their pages would be drawn penciled. They would send them in, FedEx back to IDW, Marvel, whatever. They would approve it, put their notes on it, send it back to the artist, kind of back and forth thing. Now they've gone to digital, where you draw it, send it to them, they get back to you right away, send it to you in Dropbox. So it's changed so much. And even on your end, from being a comic book artist, you have to be able to read what the writer sends to you and kind of interpret what he's writing and create the page. Do you find that hard to do sometimes?
Oh, I do. It's a lot of fun to sit and think, how are you going to break this down? There are a lot of opinions on where the story focus should be, and I had to see a lot of the wrong ones before I worked out what a lot of the right ones were. Like, for example, what was it? Someone used to look over my shoulder at comics I was reading, and they had picked the largest panel to emphasize something for the story. But in a smaller panel, someone was throwing a grenade to blow open a gate, and it wasn't very important. But to the person looking over my shoulder, they felt that, well, an explosion is bigger than, whatever was people talking in the mood and all that other stuff. The explosion should be bigger.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, well, what's going on? They're blowing open a gate. It's not really that important. So I think that they gave it the right amount of space. It's got the right amount of real estate on that page, and it shouldn't have any more, because we need to focus on the story part and
Yeah.
enlarge that. And so there are a lot of moments like that I think about from time to time when I'm looking over a script. Um, I'll look for that story moment on that particular page. I'll look for the punctuation towards the end, which is usually a cliffhanger, cliffhanger of dialogue maybe, where um, and it's not always like this. Sometimes it's in the action where you have a question posed at the end that will be answered on the next one, and so that will keep people turning. And so, and you could do that with direction or dialogue, or really, I guess there are probably a lot of ways that I haven't even thought of doing it. But that's mostly what I think about. When I'm looking through there, like how am I going to guide the reader through it? What do I show? And really, so that I can keep some sanity, how do I make it so that it's fun to draw and then fun for someone to look at? And fun, it doesn't have to be the word fun, like compelling, really. So um yeah, it's just a lot of that when you're trying to adapt something from text to drawing. And yeah, I think that's like one of the coolest things that you could do if you get to do it
Nice.
for comics.
Awesome. Well, that's great, Charles, and we really appreciate you opening up for us and going through some of the art. The Return to Vader's Castle stuff, I do enjoy. I love the spooky nature of some of the art in that. Him being he's already a haunting figure, but you really gave it like a ghost. Like, and I don't want to use Scooby Doo as an example, but like, you know what I mean? It's like the ghoulish ghost, like a scary thing, but it's still like in a comic book way. Um, and I love all your art. When I went back and looked through it, I realized that I've known you longer than I've known you because I didn't look at the name of the person who did these things. But there are definitely some things that I've read and been through, and I think a lot of us have. What are some ways that we can find your stuff? What are some upcoming projects, some things that you're doing, and how can the folks out there support you?
Um, well, we just finished a Kickstarter. I say just. Within the last year, we finished a Kickstarter for a board game for the Stuff of Legend, and that will be coming out in stores too before too long. Um, the the pledged copies are going to go out to the people who went in on it, and then we'll have that out in stores. But we also have. I also work with Skeleton Crew Studios, and he has themed keys from. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lock and Key. They have. I don't know how many volumes of books out now, but it's been going on for a while with some minis afterwards, and that's by Joe Hill and Gabe Rodriguez. And in that book, they have a lot of themed keys. But Skeleton Crew produces real versions of those keys, and I occasionally work on themed keys with them that are usually they're in connection with um, Nosferatu and Wraith. But we also worked on some Stuff of Legend stuff together too. But I have things coming out through with him, and then my friend Adam and I are working on the very last volume of Stuff of Legend right now. So, and that's what we're currently doing.
Wow, this is like really put together. And I for everyone in the chat, I shared the link to the Kickstarter. You can see it here. Obviously, you can see the style. The style of the art is very much in Charles's wheelhouse here. It looks great. There's a lot of videos, and it looks like there's $300,000 of a pledged $50,000 goal. So you guys are pretty successful currently on this Kickstarting project.
Yeah, I think it did pretty good. I'm not too familiar with how well those should be doing. This was my very first one. I just did the artwork. The guys that put it together, the publisher, Mike DeVito did all of the production artwork on it. Anything that's not a drawing, he put together, and he's just so really good at it. And you see, it's designed by Kevin Wilson, who's no relation to me, but I think he had a big enough name to be a draw for for our book becoming a game. And so I think that helped with that amount that you saw. Um,
It looks great. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of pieces here. It looks like a high quality board game. I know that, especially in the ghost busting community, Ryan Espen, he's the head of the New York City Ghostbusters, kind of our mothership franchise nationwide, is a big board game guy. And he actually has a whole YouTube channel dedicated to reviewing board games. So I'm going to send this to him as well. This looks really fun. Um,
yeah, thankfully it is. I had a really good time playing it. We had a what was it, 3D version on Steam, and
what?
I was nervous about, like, well, what if it isn't good? but but it was actually, I had a really great time, so it was really cool. And then, like, and then to see all this stuff on Steam, they had like little 3D miniatures, you could see everything. That kind of thing is new to me, so I'm very impressed by it. But I don't know if everybody else is already like, oh yeah, we know about that stuff. But it was really cool to see, and like, I had a lot of fun working on the map too. So I put a lot of, detail on that map. But this would only cover a portion of, because our story is about a group of toys that go into another world through the closet to rescue their boy owner from the boogeyman. And that place is filled with lost and forgotten toys that lived in that house at some point. It takes place in the 40s. So the toys are not going to be like modern day stuff. And everything over there is just real, a real version of the toy from back here. So there's like a toy soldier is a real soldier, teddy bear is a grizzly bear, and so on. It does get pretty violent. So I was off the mark a few times when I was recommending it for kids, because I was thinking, well, if I was a kid, but it was not, anywhere near that. It was, I think it's ages Empire Strikes Back and above. I'm borrowing that from Mike Raich. He's one of the writers for the book. And like, if your kid can handle that movie, then he should be, or she, or they should be able to handle our book. So
Yeah.
but anyway, sorry to drag on too long.
No, it's
I
okay.
absolutely love seeing this map. Like, I haven't
Yeah.
stopped for a moment to
I
look at
love
it.
this. I love the serpent and the sort of the skull cave entrance down here. There's a lot of fun, interesting little details hidden inside of this map. So I know that you're definitely in the right demo for talking about this. So don't feel bad at all for giving some detail on it, because this seems really cool, man. Anytime that an idea turns into a potential reality, especially with such a successful Kickstarter. I mean, you're looking at like 6,000 times your initial ad. I mean, you did so 50,000, so you're up to 300,000. So 5 times 6. I mean, it's looking pretty good. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't need more. So anybody in the chat, if you're into this kind of stuff, definitely hop in. They have different pledges here too, so you can
Well,
just kind of.
I don't know how. I don't think this is ongoing anymore. I don't know if
Oh,
you can
it's
still
not.
order it. I don't know if you can still order it or not. You were able to for a very long time, but um,
Oh yeah,
when
late
it comes
pledges are
out,
closed.
I think they're looking at, like, board game stores, maybe chain stores. I don't know how they work that out, but it's supposed to circulate. But the standard edition will be the one that comes out. I think for the amount that they initially asked for, when it went over that, they started going into what is it? More pledges or more reward tiers or something. However the phrasing works. And so they kept adding things. So I don't know if that absorbs a lot of the money that was made or not. But they went in for full miniatures. There were some that weren't produced, but we did put a lot of work into making it more expanding it, like the kinds of things that come with it, and what kind of materials they were made out of. But yeah, there were a lot of really neat rewards that were unlocked. Like, I'm really
Yeah,
glad that they were unlocked too, because
and
I was
they
really
hit all
excited
of
about
them.
them.
I mean, that's such a successful project. That's really awesome. So everyone, keep an eye out for that. I sent over some links just so you guys can kind of follow along if it's something that you're interested in. But we definitely appreciate your time today, Charles. Ray, you got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't read his book, the book is awesome. I mean, the artwork is definitely pick up the graphic novel for those volumes. It's a good read, especially the way the artwork goes with it. Um, like I said, for me, being a fan of art, um, that's what draws me to a book. The comic world gets you with variant covers, and they'll have different variant covers. But then once you get the variant cover and you actually go into the actual comic and it doesn't match what's on the cover, it kind of it kind of gives you kind of down feeling. But when the artwork matches what's on the cover and the story, when you got those two combinations, it's awesome. And like I said, the book, like I said, when I read it, it gives you, like he said, it's not for kids, but it's just that next level, you know, kind of like it's stuff that you would have read when you were a teenager that was kind of borderline, you know, little violent. It was violent, but you know what I mean? It's a definitely good read. If you haven't read it yet, pick up a copy.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Real quick, did you do the graphic for Ghostheads Radio?
So that's a member on our team, actually. That's
Okay.
Joe Garcia.
Well, that's
Um,
really cool. I liked it. The screen was it was on the screen for a while earlier, and I
yeah.
got to look at it for a bit, and I was like, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so yeah, a member on our team did that. There's not many artists on the team. There's a lot of fans of art, but Joe's the only one that we know. You should have seen the process that it was to do it because while I can't produce it myself, I did have expectations, and so going back and forth, he's like, "Dude, I'm doing the best that I can." I'm like, "Yeah, but I need, I need this. It just isn't quite right yet." And so we kind of landed on this, and I like it. It's a little bit different. And it kind of invokes a little bit, I guess, of what we're doing. So I certainly appreciate that a ton. Um, but yeah, I mean, so I mean, would you be willing to do some more Ghostbuster stuff in the future? Do you have what's a dream project? What's something that you have wanted to do? You've gotten close to maybe submitted stuff for, but didn't get. Like what is a franchise that you'd love to work with?
Um, well, a lot of priorities have changed. I think that this feels like cheating, sort of. I got to do it when I drew Wraith. I wish
Okay.
I had drawn it better. I drew it as best I could, but when I got, because I had been reading Lock and Key, and then I jumped over to um, Joe Hill's novels, and I started grabbing up other stuff that Gabe Rodriguez did. Like he did a graphic novel called, or an adaptation with Chris Royale called The Great and Secret Show, and I really liked that a lot. Um, but yeah, when I got that email and I was like, oh man, I get to work with these guys, because these guys were like the top of the top. That cover right there in particular, that was done by Gabe Rodriguez, and
Okay. So this isn't yours.
that one isn't mine, no.
Let's
Um,
see.
but
So,
you'll see a bunch of mine. There'll
so
be.
Maddie.
Yeah.
So, if you don't know who Joe Hale is, he's actually Stephen King's son, who goes by an alias when he does his work.
Oh, okay.
So that I'm a big Stephen King fan, so that's why I know that part of it. I mean, I'm pretty sure for you to be able to work on the Wraith as well, but to work with Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, how is that?
um, yeah, it was. Oh, I guess as far as I hadn't worked with a whole bunch of people up to that point, so everyone was really nice, and it felt like a really creative atmosphere. I felt like being creative.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, I don't know. I never got a. I've read a bunch of Stephen King books, like a bunch.
Yeah, me too. I
I
love it.
got I got stuck at. Well, I didn't get stuck, but I I borrowed at one point. I borrowed every audiobook from the library near us while I was away at school, and I went through other authors, and his section was very large, and like it was a lot of fun. There were some books in there that I couldn't finish in softcover format, so I was able to get through them in the audiobook. But yeah, no, I've never had a problem. Um, I guess connecting. Problem might be not be the right word, but I don't know. I don't really think of one when I think of the other because of how their work was introduced to me, I guess.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the name really does it too. When I hear the name, I don't associate it with anything else either, or anyone else either. And so, yeah, Stephen King was probably, even though I had read a whole bunch of this stuff, um, probably the furthest person from my mind when it came to reading Joe's stuff. And his work is different too,
Yeah.
from King's. And so, but when I came across, someone put Lock and Key in my hands at a comic book store, and they were like, "Here, just borrow it." And I was out of state, and at a comic book store, like signing books at a, there for, and someone was just like, "Here, borrow my book," and then mail it back. And I was thinking, like that's kind of a lot to ask someone,
That you don't
um,
know very well.
yeah, and but he was really enthusiastic about this book, and so I borrowed it, and then I read it and went to get the second one, which I think was I think the second volume was out and collected, and then it was individual issues after that until those were collected. But that's where I was at the time when it was handed to me, and so I drew a picture and I stuffed it in the book and I mailed it back to the guy as a thank you, because that was something that really put me on a different trajectory for what I was thinking about what I liked in comics, because that was um, just really good stuff, that book.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. Lock and Key, especially when they bought it to Netflix. I was kind of like worried at first to an extent, but yeah, it was definitely a good read. Just like that's one thing about comics. It's a lot of people just think about DC and Marvel, but some of these independent comics do put out some good stuff. Like that in Lock and Key. Like there's Lady Killers that came out, and that one is a good read. So I mean, there's so much there. It's just having somebody pointing you in the right direction really helps a lot.
Yeah, that was. I'm very glad for it. But yeah, when I got that email, that was another friend had asked me, like, because what we used to do, we'd stay up all night to get work done, and we would Skype. And one of the questions that went around one night was like, "Who do you want to work with?" And I still haven't really picked anyone, but I decided to pick someone that night, and I picked Joe Hill. And so um, I wouldn't say that kind of thing is, I don't get really enthusiastic about that. But then I did get the email if I wanted to work on a Joe Hill book, and that was still very exciting. I was really excited about that, and so I got to do it. Um, I was really nervous being, and I didn't want to be nervous, but like whenever I'm in an email chain with writers, novelist writers, I guess I get really nervous about what I'm typing. So it was a lot of times I was just, am I saying the wrong thing? And I'd rephrase something, and yeah, I don't even like to think about it now. But yeah, that was very not part of drawing comics that they told us about in school, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
100%. Yeah. And so, it sounds like you've kind of been through the industry and you've done a lot of things. So, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that you're going to just go ahead and commission some T-shirts for us. We're going to send you some ideas, and then it'll obviously be at no cost to the program. It'll just be from the kindness of your heart, and we'll sell a bunch of those, and we'll launch up to the top. But in all seriousness, have you ever done anything like that? Have you ever done commissioned artwork for clothing or posters or anything like that?
Um, I don't. I don't think so. I mean, I've seen some of my drawings on shirts, not like um, at the mall, but
Yeah.
just um, no. If you wanna work out a ghost heads thing or something, that would sound
Yeah.
pretty neat.
It'd be
If
kind of
I
cool.
could get
So,
a shirt to wear, around.
Oh,
oh
nice.
no, 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 yeah, definitely. I was only bringing it up because we're organizing a lot of charity, and we do our nationwide toy drive every year for Christmas. We're going to be doing this year the inaugural school drive, and we're just looking up for some more creative ways to drive money to those things. And merch has been a big part of kind of what we'd like to do. I know Ray is very interested in that. He's our cool t-shirt guru over there. So we'd love to work with you in the future and maybe come up with a design or something, and just put it up for charity, like no profits or anything. Just see how much it can make, and find a good cause and donate to that. So I'd love to talk to you about that, in the future.
Okay,
If
yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
sounds really good.
cool. That's awesome. So for Ghost Heads Radio, this has been an awesome show. And we have Charles Paul Wilson III, the distinguished Charles Paul Wilson III, Retro Ray, and for the original team, I'm here alone without Ted. And he's kicked off the show now, actually. So Ted's actually not allowed back on the show anymore for missing today. So it'll be just me moving forward. But we appreciate all you guys tuning in. And where can they find you? Where can they keep up with you, Charles?
Oh, I'm on Instagram as CP Wilson III, and I am also on Facebook as my whole name, Charles Paul Wilson III. It's a lot of it, personal stuff and art stuff, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So occasionally you'll see my kids doing silly stuff, but yeah, I do post artwork as often as I can.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Ray, you got anything else? Are we good to go?
No, I just want to thank Charles for taking the time and answering my message when I messaged you on Facebook. I'm pretty sure you're probably like, who's this guy called messaged me about an interview?
Well, it's so funny because when Ray came onto the team, he's kind of a newer member onto the Countdown City Geekcast, but not new to this realm whatsoever. And we were like, okay, well, yeah, the TMNT Ghostbusters crossover. I'd love to talk to the guy who did that. Literally less than a day later, he's like, okay, I found him. So that's
Well,
awesome.
as far as my part goes, I mean, there are someone mentioned Eric Burnham earlier. If you want, you could probably reach out to him. He's the one that I probably know the best out of all of them. But yeah, he's a super friendly, nice guy, and probably be a really good compliment to whatever it is, whatever you guys want to talk about,
Yeah.
or however I'm trying to phrase it. I'm making a big word mess, but he probably won't because he's a wordsmith. And so, he's, like knows everything Ghostbusters. I think he had a Ghostbuster cookbook come out.
Oh,
So if
Oh,
you
wow.
guys are looking for another comic book related guest, that guy for sure, Eric Burnham.
You think you could
Cool.
help me get in contact with him?
Sure, if you like, yeah, absolutely. I think he is amenable to getting stuff from like in social media, but yeah, if you want, I'll reach out too.
Yeah, if you could put a good word in for us, I mean, I'd appreciate it because sometimes some people don't accept the invites or the
Oh
things.
yeah,
That's
okay,
why I was
yeah.
kind of like iffy with when you answered back so fast. I was kind of like, oh man, like I said, it's like asking a girl out on a date. You won't know until you ask. The worst thing they can tell you is no, or they just basically ghost you. So
Yeah. No ghosts. But yeah, that's awesome. And again, thanks to everybody who watched. Make sure you keep up with Charles and the stuff he's got going on. Make sure you tune in this week, Thursday, for the WrestleCast. Monday, we're back with the Geekcast. Wednesday after that, we're back with Ghostheads Radio. You know how we do. Every couple of days, you're going to get some new content from us. And thank you, Retro Ray, for hopping on and being my comic book lifeguard in case it got too deep in the weeds. So you could just throw me the lifeguard and pull me out. But thanks, everybody, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks. Thank you.